A Force-sensitive human, Ajunta Paul was a member of the Jedi Order following the First Great Schism. Undergoing training in the ways of the Force, Paul first attained the rank of Jedi Knight, then attained the rank of Jedi Master and began studying the ways of alchemy. Eventually, through his studies, Master Paul discovered the secret of creating and shaping life. Fearful of this power, the Order deemed it an abomination of the Force and sought to erase all practice of it. The Jedi High Council bared the teachings of Paul and his followers, deemed him a pawn of the dark side of the Force. Angered by what they deemed Jedi arrogance, Master Paul and his followers declared war on the Order, beginning a century-long conflict that would be known to history as the Hundred-Year Darkness. Obtaining significant power, the now High General Paul slew more than a dozen Jedi during the final battle of the war on Corvus. But he and his fellow Dark Jedi were defeated nonetheless, captured by his former comrades in the Jedi Order. Master Paul and his followers were stripped of their ranks and their weapons and exiled from space controlled by the Galactic Republic. Traveling from one planet to the other in search of a habitable world, the exiles eventually discovered Korriban on the Outer Rim. Venturing into the wastes of the desert planet, the exiles were intrigued upon discovering the world was home to a force-sensitive species known as the Sith, who, while relatively primitive when compared to the Dark Jedi, were quite creative in their knowledge of the Force. The Sith, under their king Hakagram Grush, initially resisted the Dark Jedi's attempt to obtain their knowledge and subjugate them. However, Paul managed to recruit King's Shadowhand to their side, with the result that Grush was betrayed to the Dark Jedi, and Paul personally executed Grush with his own sword. Afterwards, the Sith species, in awe of Paul and his followers, ships, and technology, as well as their skills in manipulating the Force, quickly came to worship the visitors to their planet, hailing them as their gods. Paul and his followers then subjugated the natives, and his new Sith subjects revered him as their Janari, meaning Dark Lord. As the first Dark Lord of the Sith, Ajunta Paul founded the first Sith Empire and expanded it onto other worlds. The Sith took over the planet Zyos and created it as their capital, and as Paul's new home, Paul eventually died after serving the Empire for many decades. But his empire lived on. His body was returned to Korriban, where it was placed in a massive tomb in what would come to be called the Valley of the Dark Lords. After his physical death, a gentle Paul's spirit persisted within his tomb, having attached his soul to the physical world through his extensive knowledge of alchemy. Over the centuries, he began to question his actions as a Sith Lord and the downfall the Lords experienced at each other's hands. Millennia after his death, during the Jedi Civil War, Jedi Knight Revan entered Ajunta Paul's tomb to retrieve the Sith Lord's sword so that he could gain prestige from the nearby Sith Academy, which he hoped would ultimately lead to his accessing a star map containing partial coordinates of the Star Forge. Ajunta Paul appeared as a spirit and told Revan of his actions as a Sith, with disappointment and shame, telling him of how the Jedi weren't what drove the Sith to destruction. After the Hundred-Year Darkness, Paul explained how the Sith themselves battled each other and led their order close to death, and that he felt nothing but remorse. Revan removed the Dark Lord's blade and convinced Paul to turn away from the dark side and return to the light, letting go of his pain and anguish. Paul returned to the light and became one with the Force, finding peace at last. It is said that Revan gave the sword to Master Uthra Wynn at the Academy, attaining the prestige necessary to reach the star map. Before his spirit was finished, Paul hinted at a secret source of Sith power. He was unable to recount the conflicting images of whether Revan had discovered the source of power or would soon do so. Have an amazing day, everyone, and may the Force be with you always.